Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday, March 18th. An active weather pattern continues across much of the nation. Looks like it will lead to a soaking rain event in the Mid-Atlantic region, mainly late tonight into early Thursday. And it is a soaking rain event that really comes in a short period of time, so we'll have to watch out for some localized flooding conditions because of the short duration of the soaking rain event. Really will come in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor from around, let's say, midnight to 6 a.m., give or take a couple of hours on either end, the front end or the back end, where anywhere from a half an inch to an inch, maybe even an inch plus in some areas. Again, in a short period of time from late tonight into early Thursday. The bulk of the day on Thursday will just feature a couple of showers, maybe a few scattered showers on Thursday night, and then a strong cold front will approach the area late in the day on Friday. The few showers are likely with that frontal system, maybe even a couple of strong thunderstorms in the Mid-Atlantic region late in the afternoon on Friday. Friday itself will be an unseasonably warm and windy day in the Mid-Atlantic region. The highs probably well up in the 70s in places like D.C., Philadelphia, even New York City should get into at least the low to mid 70s, again with a strong southwesterly flow of air during the day ahead of that strong cold front. Then considerably colder air arrives for the upcoming weekend, probably turns a little bit colder by Sunday as compared with Saturday, but still big differences from what we'll experience on Friday. And then again, we've been talking about this for days now. We'll have to watch as moisture looks like it'll make a return visit from the south central U.S. into the Mid-Atlantic region early next week, maybe as early as Monday morning. And there still will be a cold air mass in place, although it will be getting ready to retreat to the north and east. The very strong high pressure system kind of anchored to the north, maybe a little stubborn to give up its ground. Therefore, believe it or not, even though the 70s are likely on Friday, the chance of snow is on the table, at least in parts of the Mid-Atlantic region, early next week, probably in the Monday time frame. And as usual this time of the year, the favored areas for the threat of snow will be higher elevation locations north and west of I-95. We'll get into that over the next few minutes. But for now, let's focus in on this soaking rain event. This is the forecast map of total precipitation between now and tomorrow morning. This is just a 24-hour total precipitation map by NOAA. And again, in this general region, anywhere from a half an inch to perhaps an inch, maybe even an inch and a quarter on some spots. But the real interesting part here is that it comes in a short period of time. Again, we're talking about maybe a 6-hour rain event from around midnight to 6 a.m. We'll have to watch out for some runoff, maybe some localized flooding conditions. Again, an active weather pattern across the nation. This is just over the next 24 hours. Not only this area of moisture moving from the southwest to the northeast, but still a lot of precipitation out across the southwestern U.S. A lot of this is snow in those higher elevation areas of the western U.S. Well, we've been kind of talking about teleconnection indices over the past several days, kind of giving us a signal that we do have more cold air outbreaks for the central and eastern U.S. over the next couple of weeks, right through the remainder of the month of March into early February. Two of those indices I've been monitoring are the Arctic Oscillation, AO, and the North Atlantic Oscillation, NAO. When they go negative this time of the year, that kind of increases the chances for cold air outbreaks to penetrate into the central and eastern U.S. These indices give us kind of an idea of the pressure pattern that's going on in the North Atlantic, which in turn has an impact on the weather conditions, at least potentially has an impact on the weather conditions in the eastern U.S. And the black represents where we've been in terms of the Arctic Oscillation, and the red is a forecast going out 1 or 2 weeks or so. And notice here the AO tends to make a big drop right in this region right here from positive to neutral, perhaps even slightly negative. Again, that is kind of a signal that the pressure pattern will be changing up across the North Atlantic, and we'll have a continuation, therefore, of cold air outbreaks into the central and eastern U.S. Certainly, Cold air outbreaks will be mixed with very warm air too. For example, the 70s here, well above normal for this time of the year on Friday, but then a much colder weekend, and it looks like cold right into the early part of next week, cold relative to normal. Well, as far as the North Atlantic Oscillation, the closely related cousin of the Arctic Oscillation, again, kind of a similar pattern here where it's positive now, but the trend is for a downturn towards neutral, perhaps even negative. Again, here's where we stand right now, and this is a forecast over the next week to 10 days or up to 2 weeks or so. So again, both the AO and NAO continue to show signs of dropping some, at least to neutral territory, maybe even in negative territory, a signal that some cold air outbreaks are still coming to the central and eastern U.S. Well, certainly another way we can visualize those cold air outbreaks is to take a look at the nationwide forecast map. This happens to be from last night's 06Z GFS operational run, 850 millibar temperature anomalies. And we'll see a couple different cold air outbreaks coming up over the next week to 2 weeks or so. First of all, relatively normal or above normal temperatures today, and that really jumps up by tomorrow, maybe in the 70s as early as tomorrow afternoon in DC, following the passage of a warm frontal system. That warm front will contribute to the soaking rain event late tonight into early tomorrow. Then by tomorrow afternoon, again, could be 70 plus degrees tomorrow in DC. Certainly on Friday, in fact, Friday afternoon, DC area could push the 80-degree mark. 70s are certainly likely in Philly and New York City on Friday. Maybe 60 degrees for a high tomorrow afternoon in Philly, above normal. It really intensifies again by Friday. Now, this is ahead of that strong cold frontal system on this particular 850 millibar temperature anomaly chart. It's quite easy to tell where that frontal system is, right in this region right here. This is kind of the dividing zone between the very warm air to the east and the cold, relative to normal, air to the north and west. Let's keep moving forward here. That cold front arrives in the eastern U.S. late Friday. Can even be some strong, perhaps even some severe thunderstorm activity ahead of it. I do not expect an all-day rain on Friday by any means. A few showers are likely, maybe a strong thunderstorm or two, and then look at the extent of this colder than normal air mass extending from all the way up in Canada into the southwest U.S. and even into the eastern part of the Pacific. That's cold air outbreak number one here for the upcoming weekend. And the interesting thing, it goes into the early part of next week. Here we are now by Monday morning. Now, that high pressure system that we'll talk about in a moment, especially with the surface forecast maps, will build into southeastern Canada. By Monday, it will be starting to retreat to the north and east, as will the cold air. But again, cold air is typically kind of reluctant to give us its ground because it's cold and dense. And we'll have some colder than normal air still in place early Monday. So if the moisture from the south central states can make it in quick enough, there may be enough cold air around for some snow, at least in parts of the mid-Atlantic region. Again, the favored areas are in the higher elevation locations to the north and west of I-95. Let's keep moving forward here. That finally pulls on out of here, and then we get warmer than normal. But we have some colder air already starting to show up over the southwestern U.S. And again, it'll be mixed in. These cold air outbreaks will be mixed in with some warm, unseasonably warm air masses. But here we go out to as late as the latter part of March, and look at all this cold air bottled up here over southwestern and south central Canada. But with the NAO and the AO going at least towards the negative territory, a lot of that bottled up cold air will indeed make its way down into the central and eastern U.S. at the end of March, going into early April. Well, and now let's take a look at the surface forecast maps from the 6Z operational run of the GFS. A rain-free day here in the Mid-Atlantic region, thanks to high pressure sitting right on top of the region. Little or no wind. Relatively cool conditions, not bad at all for this time of the year. Maybe the mid-50s in general this afternoon in much of the I-95 corridor region. Notice a lot of moisture here out over the middle part of the nation as we begin the day here on Wednesday, and storm over the southwestern states here, impacting, about to impact Southern California and the interior part of the southwestern U.S. Let's move forward here. That starts to move to the north and east. Again, some higher elevation snows out in the western U.S. and this makes a quick move. It's kind of a warm frontal system that sets up here by tonight, going in this fashion right here. You can see the kind of the kink in the isobar pattern. That is a warm front, and it'll be the focus of some significant rainfall for a short period of time. Again, primarily holding off certainly till after rush hour, whatever kind of rush hour there is these days, and perhaps close to midnight starting in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and between about midnight, 6 a.m., soaking rain event. Again, give or take a couple hours on the front end and the back end. It could go as late as 8 or 9 a.m. in some areas and begin as early as 8 or 9 p.m. in some areas. But soaking rain event, looks like all rain basically from New York City south and west. You go farther north, it could be some frozen precip to deal with. That kicks on out of here pretty quickly early tomorrow. I don't expect much shower activity during the remainder of the day on Thursday. Maybe just a shower or two, maybe mostly cloudy skies, turning milder though. Significantly milder in D.C., probably up in the 70s, maybe even 60 or so in Philadelphia and New York City. And here we go, the beginnings, pretty good storm out in the middle part of the nation where a lot of snow is expected, and that is showing now by Friday morning. Strong low pressure over southeastern Canada, strong cold front trailing it, and all that cold air behind it is supported by a very strong and important high pressure system by Friday morning over the northern plains. Again, not an all-day rain event on Friday, but a few showers are quite definite, maybe even as strong to perhaps a severe thunderstorm or two as that powerful, strong cold front arrives late in the day on Friday. The best chance for strong thunderstorms will be during the afternoon or early evening hours. That front slides on through here by Saturday morning. Then we have this strong cold high over south central Canada. And watch as it builds into southeastern Canada over the upcoming weekend. We turn colder on Saturday, and perhaps even colder on Sunday, maybe 5 degrees or so colder on Sunday afternoon as compared to Saturday afternoon, maybe 50 for highs in some areas, and then 45 by Sunday afternoon in some areas. Again, kind of a cool down over the upcoming weekend as this high builds into southeastern Canada. Here we are now for the Sunday morning forecast map. A very strong cold high centered over southeastern Canada. Moisture starting to form over the south central U.S. That high does indeed start to shift excuse me, to the north and east, and that cold air mass still in place by Sunday night will begin to retreat to the north and east, and we'll have to see if the moisture arrives quick enough for some frozen precipitation. And models differ on how quick that moisture arrives. Here we are now by Monday morning, the high pushing off the New England coastline, and again the cold air is beginning its retreat to the north and east, but still cold enough for some snow north and west of I-95, central Pennsylvania for sure. Again, this time of the year, higher elevation locations are really much more favored for frozen precipitation than lower elevation locations such as central and northern Pennsylvania. But again, outside chance of some snow early Monday in the northern and western suburbs along the I-95 corridor. We'll just have to monitor, especially north of the Mason-Dixon line. Low pressure will move south and east of the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to New York City, kind of keeping us on the cold side. But it's the spring, so even though this would be kind of a very nice looking map if you like snow, if you were in the middle of winter, we got to keep in mind here we're actually, spring begins late tomorrow, so by this time we'll be into spring by Monday morning, and then that pushes off to the north and east. So a very active weather pattern here. We have a lot to monitor. A soaking rain event late tonight, and it comes in a short period of time, so I'll have to watch for runoff, maybe some localized flooding conditions. Not much tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. In terms of rainfall, a few showers on Friday, maybe a strong thunderstorm as that powerful cold front arrives. Colder for the weekend, and then we'll have to watch as moisture pushes north and east into the mid-Atlantic region with a retreating cold air mass early next week. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.